Trump versus the FBI. 3 fired officials, decades of experience, and 1 lawsuit that could blow the doors wide open on the most dangerous power struggle in modern American politics. This isn't some dusty legal skirmish. No, this is a battle about whether a president can purge the very agency meant to hold him accountable. Fired FBI leaders are suing, saying they were pushed out in a campaign of retribution, ordered directly from the White House. And here's the kicker. They claim Trump's own hand-picked FBI director, Kash Patel, admitted the firings were probably illegal, but said he had to do it to keep his job. Yeah, you heard that right. Illegal, but necessary. Let's rewind. The FBI is not just another agency. It's the central nervous system of American law enforcement. For decades, presidents, Republican and Democrat, learned to tread carefully around it, until Trump. From the moment James Comey was fired back in 2017, Trump made clear loyalty mattered more than independence. Fast forward to 2025, and we now see the full purge. 3 senior officials, Brian Driscoll, Steve Jensen, Spencer Evans, veterans with spotless records, suddenly cut loose. Why? According to their lawsuit, the crime was insufficient loyalty to Trump. Not corruption, not misconduct, loyalty. Patel, the FBI director, is named directly. Court filings allege he confessed behind closed doors that the White House demanded these firings. He admitted the move could be unlawful, but did it anyway. The message was chilling: survival over legality. And make no mistake, this didn't happen in a vacuum. It came just weeks after Trump openly blasted the so-called deep state in rallies, promising to clean house. He vowed to dismantle agencies stacked against him. And suddenly, key FBI leaders investigating Trump's orbit are gone. Coincidence? You tell me.
Now here's where it explodes. The fired officials didn't just walk away, they fought back. In a federal lawsuit, they allege their dismissals violated due process, free speech rights, and decades of professional protections. They're not just demanding jobs back, they want accountability. Internal memos, emails, depositions from Patel, maybe even testimony that drags senior Trump aides straight into court. Think about the stakes. Discovery, the legal process of pulling documents, could force the FBI to hand over the White House's fingerprints on the purge. Imagine internal emails saying, "Fire them, they weren't loyal." If that surfaces, it's not just bad optics, it's constitutional crisis territory. And reactions? Predictably explosive. Democrats call it political retribution, pure and simple. Senator Dick Durbin blasted it as an assault on the rule of law. Progressive watchdog groups are circling, ready to file amicus briefs. Meanwhile, Republicans close to Trump, they cheer. They say the FBI was bloated, corrupt, biased since 2016. To them, this is cleansing. Retaliation? They call it restoration. But behind the partisan noise, the bigger drama is what happens in court. Trump's team is already preparing to argue immunity, claiming presidents, through their appointees, have wide discretion to hire and fire. They'll cite at-will employment. They'll scream executive privilege to block disclosures. And if that fails, they'll pivot to national security, saying the reasons for these firings are classified. Classic Stonewall. But the plaintiffs? They've got ammunition. Long careers, performance reviews with no red flags, a paper trail of retaliation. If they pierce immunity claims, suddenly we're in new territory. A jury weighing whether the president's inner circle corrupted the FBI itself. That's not just a case, that's a political earthquake. So what happens now? Let's lay it out.
First, the courts. If this case survives early motions, we're heading toward the most explosive discovery battle since Watergate. Judges will have to decide, do presidential orders to purge FBI leaders cross constitutional lines, or does raw political power win out? Second, Congress. Expect hearings. Democrats will drag Patel in front of the Judiciary Committee. They'll ask under oath, did the White House order you to fire them? If he says yes, it's a scandal. If he pleads the fifth, it's chaos. Either way, headlines. Third, the public. Americans already distrust institutions. Polls show confidence in the FBI has cratered, split down party lines. To one side, Trump is exposing corruption. To the other, he's weaponizing power. This lawsuit forces the question, can an independent FBI even exist under a president who demands loyalty oaths? And the consequences reach further. If the plaintiffs win, remedies could include reinstatement, back pay, and structural injunctions stopping future purges. That means courts literally telling Trump, you can't fire agents for political disloyalty. Imagine that headline. Trump boxed in by judges. You think he'll take that quietly? Not a chance. But if the plaintiffs lose, if courts side with Trump's immunity arguments, buckle up. That ruling effectively greenlights future presidents, not just Trump, to purge agencies at will. Today it's FBI agents, tomorrow CIA, NSA, IRS. The message, loyalty first, law second. And here's the most explosive angle. Insiders whisper, this is just the beginning. Multiple lawsuits are brewing. Maureen Comey, daughter of James Comey, has already filed her own retaliation case. Fired prosecutors in Virginia are considering action too. What starts as one lawsuit could snowball into a legal insurgency inside Trump's own Justice Department. But here's the part nobody's talking about. What happens if discovery doesn't just expose firings, but exposes why he wanted them gone? Were they working on investigations into his finances, into January 6th, into foreign ties? If those files come out, we're not just talking wrongful termination. We're talking revelations that could burn Washington down. And that's where this story pivots. Because if the courts crack open the vault and those documents see daylight, Trump's legal war with the FBI doesn't just stay in the courtroom. It spills into Congress. It splashes into the 2026 midterms. It shapes the 2028 race. This isn't just about three men and their jobs. It's about whether American democracy still has independent watchdogs or whether loyalty to one man now defines the system. But here's the question. What happens if Trump wins this fight? So let's dig deeper. What happens if Trump wins this fight? What does it mean if a federal court effectively blesses political purges inside America's most powerful law enforcement agency? Start with precedent. Presidents have always pushed the limits. Nixon weaponized the IRS and FBI against enemies. Reagan clashed with oversight during Iran-Contra. Even Clinton tried to stonewall investigations. But here's the difference. None of them attempted a wholesale purge of career officials purely for disloyalty. Trump is testing a boundary no president has ever crossed this boldly as the right to turn federal law enforcement into a loyalty machine. And the timing matters. Remember, this lawsuit isn't unfolding in a calm political climate. It's happening during a government shutdown where Trump has already frozen billions in aid to Democratic states. It's happening while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is gutting watchdog systems inside the Pentagon. And it's happening as Trump is openly promising to send troops into American cities to combat enemies within. This lawsuit isn't an isolated event. It's part of a pattern of consolidating control, stripping away checks, and daring institutions to stop him. The judiciary becomes the last line of defense. If courts side with Trump, then checks and balances shrink further. Congress can protest, but unless they impeach, and we know how that went before, they can't stop him. If courts push back, though, it sets a barrier. Presidents can't purge career officials for loyalty. That's a guardrail. That's a precedent future leaders would have to respect. But here's the problem. Courts don't move at a vacuum. Federal judges are deeply divided. Trump has already reshaped the judiciary with his appointees. Conservative judges may sympathize with arguments about executive power. Progressives will scream constitutional crisis. Which way the scales tip could define the independence of U.S. law enforcement for a generation. And then there's the political strategy. Trump thrives on conflict. To his base, lawsuits like this aren't scandals. They're proof he's fighting the so-called deep state. Every filing, every headline, he spins as validation. Democrats see it as proof of authoritarian drift. Independents? They're caught in the middle. asking whether any institution in Washington can still be trusted. So, what comes next? Let's lay out 3 scenarios. Scenario 1. The plaintiffs win big. The court rules their firings were unlawful. Patel is forced to testify. Documents show the White House ordered purges. The result? Reinstatement, back pay, and injunctions limiting Trump's power. This would spark a political firestorm. Trump would rage against corrupt judges. Republicans would call it sabotage. Democrats would push for even stronger protections for federal agents. The bigger consequence? Other purged officials would smell blood and file lawsuits of their own. The dam breaks. Trump faces a wave of litigation. Scenario 2. A narrow win for Trump. The court sides with the administration on immunity grounds. Judges say presidents have wide latitude to remove officials. The lawsuit dies quietly. Trump declares victory. The precedent? Presidents can purge. That greenlight extends beyond the FBI. Suddenly, agencies like the CIA, IRS, even the Federal Reserve could face loyalty tests. The chilling effect? Career officials will toe the line or get axed. The watchdog system collapses. Scenario 3. A prolonged stalemate. The case drags on. Courts dodge the big constitutional questions, letting motions, appeals, and technicalities stretch for years. Discovery is delayed. Depositions stall. The lawsuit hangs over Washington like a storm cloud without breaking. This scenario favors Trump politically. He frames it as another witch hunt dragging on forever. The plaintiffs burn resources and time, waiting for resolution. Meanwhile, Trump reshapes institutions unchecked. Each path has risks, but notice something. All 3 scenarios feed political warfare. A win, loss, or stalemate doesn't end the fight. It extends it, because every outcome becomes fuel for whichever side spins it hardest. And there's another layer. What if evidence revealed in this case connects directly to Trump's financials, foreign ties, or January 6th? That opens doors to criminal liability. Suddenly, this isn't just employment law. It's potential impeachment fodder. It's election weaponry. It's headlines that can dominate midterms in 2028. So here we are, a lawsuit filed by 3 men most Americans have never heard of. Brian Driscoll, Steve Jensen, Spencer Evans could determine the fate of America's justice system. It's not about their careers. It's about whether independence still exists in U.S. law enforcement or whether loyalty to one man overrides the Constitution itself. Think about what's on the line. If courts allow these purges, every agency in America becomes vulnerable. If courts block them, Trump faces a barrier he can't easily smash through. Either way, the fight doesn't end here. It only escalates. And that leaves us with a question for you. Is this accountability or just theater? Is this the justice system pushing back or another battle in a war where the system itself burns down around us? Because one thing's certain, this lawsuit isn't just another case. It's a crack in the wall holding the republic together. And once that wall gives way, well, you already know what happens when fire spreads. Like, share, subscribe, because trust me, this story is just beginning.